Hello, all. How are you? So, this is the continuation of my previous video. That means, previous video was my experience with HCL round number 1, and this is the round number 2, which I had it scheduled in a weekend. So, before we get started, few points I need to add here. So, this interview Q&A discussion is based on my own experience only. So same company, different project, there may be different questions and different approach followed for evaluation. A few answers will be based on my perspective, okay, and expectation differs from interviewer to interviewer. But don't worry, we will be discussing on the appropriate way to answer each question, and also few more extra tips I'll be adding for each question. Please do watch this video from start to end and provided support for my channel. And a few topics I used to mention in the comment, for example, JQL, which I might have already explained in the previous video. So I will be adding that particular link in comment section for each video. So don't miss to see the comment section for each of this video. So HCL round number 2. So completing the other interviews like Deloitte and EY before like weeks, and then taking HCL interview, I was like pretty confident in attending. Okay. And the surprising fact is previous round happened for 1 hour 10 minutes, and this round was for 1 hour 5 minutes, which I feel for a Scrum Master interview is a bit long. So, but here like we will be like covering in overall in 20 to 30 minutes at the max this discussion. So starting with the self intro as usual. First question was difference between agile and the Scrum. So separately I have posted like some videos like TDD, BDD, and agile and waterfall. So please check that video. I will have that link added in comment section. So how I explained is, first of all, agile is a methodology, okay, whereas Scrum is a framework. Actually, it's very lightweight framework. So Scrum is one of the implementation of agile. If you're taking agile as an entire umbrella, under that agile umbrella only Scrum is falling it. You should be very clear about that first, because some people get confused between the word methodology and framework. So be very clear. Next, what type of project is suited? So agile generally agile requires like highly skilled project development team. Okay, but Scrum is suited for mostly projects with quickly changing requirement. And agile is more rigid method when compared to Scrum. And Scrum is an adaptable method. Okay, so one of the benefits for Scrum is an adaptability, and whether and agile entails cross-functional collaboration and face-to-face interaction between the team members. This point I didn't actually mention in my interview, but I have added here because this may create confusion. So better stick to like 2 to 3 points. And the last part which I mentioned is in Agile, the design and implementation should be kept as simple as possible. Whereas in Scrum, innovative and experimental design are possible. Okay, so just like 3 points I added for the difference. And then next question was, what are the rules in Scrum? See, this is a straightforward question. Only we have 3 roles in Scrum. Some people may get confused, like project manager, maybe a role in Scrum. No, only 3 roles in Scrum: product owner, Scrum Master, developers. On the whole, these 3 combined, we used to call it as a Scrum team. I should be very clear about it. And what are the most widely used frameworks? So see, here I have added a graph here. So this is something like from internet I have taken. Most of the project, majority of the project have Scrum as the most widely used framework. So I told the same. I mentioned like around 60% of project in IT industry use Scrum. Followed by that, around like another 20% use Scrum as a hybrid model. For example, like a Scrum plus Kanban. In addition to that, also I mentioned Spotify, which is an emerging model now in industry. So I mentioned that. What is the use of SAFe? So I have experience with SAFe and I have mentioned the same in response. So that's why this particular question came. First of all, SAFe is a heavyweight framework in Agile. And SAFe stands for Scaled Agile Framework. And this actually became the reason why we are doing is when we are handling multiple teams, like integrate number of Agile teams, if we want to have a continuous delivery, we use to follow SAFe. So these two lines I have taken from Scaled Agile Framework website. So SAFe promotes alignment, collaboration, and delivery across large number of Agile teams. Same way, same thing I also explained. So it was primarily based on three bodies of knowledge. Okay, so one is Agile software development, lean product development, and systems thinking. And this I know very well, so I mentioned the same, the focus area. Okay. So as business grows in size, SAFe provides a structured approach for scaling Agile. So for part of scaled Agile, we use SAFe. So the scaled Agile is something like a teams concept. There are like many other frameworks also in the same way. So just I explain on high level. And if you have no experience in SAFe, I don't think so this question you will be getting. Have you worked with Spotify model? Okay. So Spotify model, as I mentioned, like it's an emerging and trending model. So I haven't worked with Spotify model, but I was aware like how a Spotify model works. So I explained the same. So this also you can answer with based on your experience. Next, SAFe for Spotify. What do you prefer? So this actually speaking, since I don't have a very good experience with Spotify, I mentioned like the same to the interviewer, and the interviewer was very transparent and curious to explain. So the interviewer explained that nowadays few organizations, both Spotify and SAFe, and they're using. So it was, and also a few more points he added, like because previously I explained about SAFe, right, and also few about Spotify. So how they're mixing, he explained on high level. So that's so nice that an interviewer is explaining an answer. And next, why do you think Scrum Master role is crucial? Okay, see, this they want to check your understanding on the Scrum Master role. Okay, so Scrum Master is like role is like a process owner. So if the Scrum Master is not available or if Scrum Master is not present at team, what will happen? Nobody will take the ownership of the process. So Scrum Master is a process owner, right? So not only Scrum process, I'm telling you overall process. Scrum Master is the owner. So that process will not happen properly if a Scrum Master is not there. Next, the problem solver. So for any impediment or any dependency, anything, Scrum Master is needed. Even for conflict management, Scrum Master is needed, right? Next, servant leader. So Scrum Master should help the team and then help them to have a continuous delivery. So like a true leader as well as a servant leader, the Scrum Master should have. I just mentioned these points and explained why a Scrum Master role is crucial. How do you start with the new Scrum team? Okay. See, this was like, I believe like they're going to form a new Scrum team. That's why this question might have been asked. So first understand the environment. And then we should start the coaching because the Scrum Master is like a team coach. It's a start without understanding the environment. If we are starting to coach the team, that will not work. And in parallel, you should understand the client requirement, what the client is expecting. And then how we are going to plan for the product and how we are going to plan for the process part. These things you need to take a call. And then slowly you need to build the team in various stages like forming, storming, etc. What are the activities you do as a Scrum Master in Jira? Okay. From here, I'm telling like mostly Jira questions I was getting. Okay, I was a bit surprised why in a Scrum Master interview these many questions they were asking, but it is actually good. So I mentioned very clearly because in daily stand-up we used to review with Scrum Board to check the progress towards the sprint goal. Then report tracking, we used to go with sprint burn down chart and the backlog items. Creating backlog items, I used to help my product owner in Jira. And backlog management also, I used it with my product owner. And then release tracking. So I used to track the release, that means which story is going to live in Jira. In that, I have posted a separate video. I will tag that link in comment section. Please go through that. Next, sprint creation and sprint closing. That also I'm the one who used to take care. So for that also I have created a simple video. And JQL, I used to create the filters for JQL. If you want to go through JQL also, I have created a separate playlist for Jira. Please go through that. Because these are some activities you do as a Scrum Master in Jira. There may be more also, you may be doing a Scrum Master in a real-time project. Please tell it in a very sequential way. But always remember there may be cross questions from whatever topics you have mentioned about. There may be follow-up questions asked. Be cautious. Next is what is the JQ? See, this I have also separated. JQ stands for Jira Query Language. So please go through that. And also in my previous video with Deloitte, I think I have explained it. Please go through that. Who will create sprint and how to do that? See, I mentioned very clearly Scrum Master is the one who will be creating a sprint. So in Jira, I have used Jira. So I have explained all the answers with Jira. In the backlog section, there will be an option. There's a button called create sprint. So just click on create sprint. You can create the sprint. It will ask like a sprint duration, start date, end date, everything. Just you can create. For that, also you can check my previous video. Who can close stories? What is story closure process in your team? See, normally story owners will be closing the stories. Okay. So product owner will review the story and then only story owners are supposed to close the stories in my project. And each story we will be having like a subtask created and specific owners assigned. For that, why we are using subtask, I have created a separate video like an under agile best practices. Please go through that. And also story closure process, I will be checking like whether the subtask, like people are following the subtask process and then whether defects are getting tagged if it is getting raised for the specific story. And then ensure that DOD is getting satisfied for each and every story. DOD also is a checklist kind of thing, which I have shared a separate video. Please go through that. So these things very clearly I explained. Next, before closing sprint in Jira, what will you check? Story-wise, the Scrum Master need to check whether all the stories and subtasks under the story are done, whether the defects linked with the story are completed. If there are any more attachment or details need to be added, whether it's added by the story owners or not. So therefore, at sometimes point we need to check everything. Same, I also share. How will you plan for each release? See, this is like a project specific answer. You may have a release in your project, or you may not have even a release in your project. So based upon your own experience, please explain this question. So start with your release planning in such a way that we will plan. You will be facilitating the release planning with stakeholder. Actually, in my project, like I will be facilitating. So the tentative stories which can go on live, which date, and the release plan about the sign-off thing, the timelines, the sign-off process, everything will be discussing in release planning meeting. Then I used to track in Jira also for each release what are the stories which got delivered. So for that separate video, I have shared in my channel. Please check that. That's a very good practice I used to tell. Will you estimate testing and development efforts separate? Actually speaking, we should not do that. We should have as a team only we are working. So we are considering developers, it involves both developers as well as testers. So whenever you are estimating a story, here we are doing relative estimation. So both testers and developers should collaborate and they should come up with final estimate. So separately, we should not be estimating the user stories. How do you track what you are doing in the story? That means what is being done in the story, how will you track? Okay. Actually, speaking from subtask level, we can track easily. So subtask, they have posted a separate video. So just tell with an example. Take a story, tell like Okay. Another story, my team will be creating a subtask, for example, QA testing, a subtask, unit testing subtask, product owner review subtask. So based on the subtask updation and the Scrum board, I will be able to understand and track what they are doing exactly in the story. When will QA start testing a story within your sprint? See, this is also a project specific answer. Okay, so in my project, like once development is done, immediately developers used to notify the testing team, and we will start with the testing. And it is generally a team agreement needs to be there. That means a cutoff time for doing the testing. For example, if you are going to deliver the story after the 6th day of the sprint, considering 10 days of sprint, it is going to be difficult for the testing team to complete all the testings. So as and when we are completing development of the story, we need to deliver to testing. So that part we can even check even in a daily standard meeting also. Because as a Scrum Master, I will be having a tab. If it's a testable story, then at the max, by 6th day, they should be delivering to the QA team for testing, because there may be some defects also coming as a part of the story. So that fix is also needed to close the story. So I explain this way. Will you accept stories in middle of this? Okay, see, this is one of the frequently asked question in different way, like a scope creep. Okay, so first we need to analyze and estimate the new story and check the business specification from the product owner. Do we really need this? What change is it going to change? And then if it is really required to be completed and if it is going to be high priority, to a trade-off. Even Scrum guide also suggests the same. We do a trade-off. Change the plan and then like have a swap. For example, you are taking like 5-story pointer, then you have 5-story pointer removed based upon the team commitment. And finally get a team commitment. Okay, I'm good. I can take this and I can complete within the sprint. Take that commitment from the team. That is how you need to handle the situation. What's your team velocity? This is a project specific answer. So if you want to check what is the velocity, if you're not aware, please go through my video. I have tagged it in the comment section for velocity. Velocity and capacity relationship. This is one of the frequently asked questions. So tell the purpose. I have explained the same answer in the Deloitte interview, round number 1, I think. Please check that. See, so what is the purpose of velocity? What is the purpose of capacity? So this velocity calculation separately in video is there. So always remember this capacity and velocity have a good relation. For example, if a team has like 80% of capacity and they are working in the velocity of 50 story points, then with 80% capacity, the team will be able to complete only 40 story points. So this is the sprint forecast we should have. This is the relation between the capacity and the velocity. Normally, we do this forecast in sprint planning. That is how I answered this particular question. How much hours is one story point? See, this is also project specific, it will differ. In my project, like the client used to agree like 8 hours for one story point. Some client used to have like 2 days, 4 story point, 1 day, 2 story point. So it depends. So please be very specific about the answer and explain with your project point. What is the capacity of one resource? This is a bit tricky question. Okay, so this is the interviewer wants to understand whether I'm doing capacity planning correctly. Actually speaking, capacity we will calculate on the whole for the team, and normally one resource will be having around 8 hours of time, right? So 8 hours into total number of, that means one sprint, if we are following 2 weeks, then 10 working days will be there. So 80 days, 80 hours will be available capacity for the one resource. In the same way, if we are having 6 team members, then 80 into 6, 480 hours is the capacity. That means 100% capacity is this. Okay. So, next question is, how do you measure productivity of your team? The productivity can be measured in various ways, but as per my understanding, faster time to market. How faster your team is shipping the product. That is one of the measure. And continuous value, whether it is getting delivered or not. Next, velocity. Continuous value means the ROI, return on investment. Okay, so this stakeholders may be having an idea how we are delivering value. Then the velocity. Velocity is not a primary measure, but we can tell. Velocity helps us to understand how fast we are progressing. And progress towards the product goal. How sprint wise we are progressing towards the product goal. Next is the customer satisfaction index. So these are some ways to measure productivity of a team. Do you track hours in Jira? No, actually, like we work only with study points, and we don't usually have like hours calculated, but few will have hours, and that means number of hours added, and then they will detect. For example, like for a separate task, 20 hours is required. After the task completion, they will make it to 0 in Jira. So it's up to you. But I mentioned like no, we are not tracking in hours. What is CPM? Have you used? I was a bit surprised, but luckily I know like what is the CPM. That means it's the critical path method, which I have heard before. So I was very transparent. I know what it is, but exactly I haven't used in my real time. So here I just took some point for your understanding, because you may also get this question. So this is a project management related question. CPM is a step-by-step project management technique for process planning that defines critical and non-critical tasks with the goal of preventing fraud, schedule problems, and process bottlenecks. See, it's a project management technique. Okay. So whenever we are planning for any task to be completed, then we should always prevent bottlenecks, and we should have a proper schedule, like which are the critical tasks to be completed, which are the non-critical tasks to be completed. You should be having very clear idea. So for that purpose, we use CPM. CPM is ideally suited to project consisting of numerous activities that interact in a complex manner. Yes, there may be like some project like there may be many number of activities done. For that type of projects, this will be useful. So in applying CPM, the following steps are often followed. So I just took this from internet for clear understanding. First, we need to define the required task and arrange them in an ordered sequence list. Create a flow chart or critical path diagram showing each task relation to others. Identify the critical and non-critical relationship. So first we are creating the relationship with the form of a critical path diagram, then identify which is a critical relationship and which is non-critical. Then determine the expected end date or execution or completion time for each task, starting with critical one and followed by the non-critical one. Then locate or devise alternatives or backups for most critical paths. So have a backup plan devised for the most critical paths identified. That means like you can have a numbering like the number 1, number 2 priority, and then you can have the backup plan for number 1 also. For this, I was able to learn after the interview, so I just thought of adding it here. Finally, general questions related to role expectation, client which I handled, and then so on the whole. See, I was able to understand that when the interviewer talks about the role expectation and client itself, I was able to understand I can clear the interview. So I was very confident. And then finally, on the whole, I was happy. And the interview expectation here was most questions were from Jira. And story point related questions were asked. So 1 hour, 5 minutes overall interview duration. Hope this video is useful. Also, please do check my other videos and the comment section for more videos. All the very best, folks. Thank you.